My name is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm the former mayor of New York City.
Former mayor, current psychotic.
In 2013, my city elected a self-described progressive Democrat as mayor. New York City, once described as America's crime capital, had become, by the mid-1990s, America's safest large city. Now today, my city is in shock.
Your city? Take those words out of your fucking mouth. You are no longer a New Yorker. You gave up your right to say that the day you moved into Trump's asshole. New York hates Trump, and it fucking hates you, Rudy.
Murders, shootings, and violent crime.
And that's just the police.
Murders, shootings, and violent crime are increasing at percentages unheard of in the past.
Unheard of in the past? You just said that New York used to be America's crime capital. Unheard of in the past, except for that time that it was way worse. I actually had to do a little research for this one, because I live in New York, and things seem fine here. But I don't settle for anecdotal evidence, because I am not a child. So I looked it up, and it turns out that there has been a significant uptick in certain crime in New York City, but that overall crime is down. Now, that's not exactly good news, because the crimes that are up are things like murder. But it is a massive stretch to say that this uptick has been progressive Mayor Bill de Blasio's fault. If anything, de Blasio, more often than not, has capitulated to the police union. Also, crime has gone down throughout de Blasio's terms as mayor, including in 2018 when it reached a record low. So what is it about 2020 that's different than the other 6 years that de Blasio was mayor? Maybe a pandemic that decimated the economy and lost millions of jobs. Is it possible that there's a correlation between millions of people suddenly unemployed and terrified and a rise in violent crime? Or is it more likely that de Blasio just decided to announce in the middle of a global pandemic, fuck it, nothing's a crime anymore. Go crazy, y'all. Go cray-cray.
We're seeing the return of rioting and looting.
I do like the way that he calls it a return of rioting and looting, like we're hatching from our liberal nests. We're a weird species of protest cicadas that emerge from our cocoons in the soil once every 7 years to burn down Dwayne Reeds. But again, Rudy, de Blasio didn't change the law to make rioting mandatory. So where do you think these riots came from? There have been massive Black Lives Matter protests all over the world since George Floyd was murdered. Almost all of them have been peaceful. The protests turned into riots when the police and alt-right militia members attacked the protesters. We know that right-wing anarchists are infiltrating protests to create disorder. People are angry and terrified and nobody has a job anymore. What the fuck is the matter with you that you think a global pandemic, centuries of violent racism, record-breaking unemployment, thank you Trump, and Facebook group fascists are all somehow less corrosive to society than liberals?
During riots, this Democrat mayor, like others, has often prevented the police from making arrests.
Rudy, what the fuck are you talking about? De Blasio prevented the police from making arrests? The police have arrested a shit ton of protesters. Did you make that up? Oh, Rudy. Again, I'm a progressive, and if anything, we're mad at de Blasio for not being hard enough on the NYPD. I've seen peaceful protests in New York turn violent because of the police. The citizens of New York, and maybe the country in general, want systemic change to the way the police are run because way too many people are victims of police brutality. De Blasio has opted instead to let the police just keep on vibing. So we both don't like de Blasio, but your de Blasio doesn't exist. I want your de Blasio. That guy sounds great.
And even when arrests are made, liberal, progressive DAs release the rioters so as not to disrupt the rioting.
That also did not happen.
New Yorkers wonder, how did we get overwhelmed by crime so quickly and decline so fast?
No, we don't. We know what happened. It was coronavirus. Next question.
Don't let Democrats do to America what they have done to New York.
Yeah, don't let Democrats make America into a place that people want to move to, with award-winning dining and culture.
Not to mention one of the lowest COVID infection rates in the world. Yeah, we'd hate for Democrats to do this for the whole country.
Again, the Democrats are urging you to vote for an obviously defective candidate.
Rudy believes that Biden is a defective candidate, which makes sense, because Biden has empathy for others, which Republicans view as a defect.
Biden has changed his principles so often, he no longer has any principles.
Unlike Republicans, who haven't changed their principles since the 1930s. I am done with people throwing shade at politicians for flip-flopping. When smart people learn new information, they change their minds. They grow and develop. They become better. But that's some people. Others change in the other direction and get weirder and dumber and more insane as time goes by. Rudy.
He's a Trojan Horse with Bernie, AOC, Pelosi, Black Lives Matter, and his party's entire left wing.
Bernie, Pelosi, AOC, the entire Black Lives Matter movement, and the left wing of the Democratic Party are too many people to be in one Trojan horse. That horse would be the size of Yankee Stadium. I don't think that would have fooled anyone.
Just waiting to execute their pro-criminal...
I'm sorry, did you say pro-criminal? Pro-criminal. If anybody in the world is pro-criminal, it's Donald Trump and the Republican Party. As of right now, a dozen people from his administration have been indicted or thrown in jail. And that's his Justice Department run by his hand-picked Attorney General that's doing it. Imagine how many would be in jail if it wasn't being run by Trump's lapdog. Also, the Mueller report lays out an open and shut obstruction case against Trump. He's guilty of extortion, coercion of political activity, corruption, witness intimidation, tax fraud, campaign finance violation, money laundering. So the next time someone tries to tell you that Republicans are the law and order party, know that what they mean is that they want to throw as many poor people in jail as possible. Because if it's a rich Republican, then suddenly those crimes don't count. Just look at the 20 or so rich Republicans that Trump has pardoned. So Rudy, stop pretending that you give two shits about crime.
The whole unprecedented wave of lawlessness began with a truly just cause: the unforgivable police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis.
I love Giuliani pretending to care about the death of George Floyd when 99% of Republicans are arguing that it was okay for the police to kill him. Go watch the conservative coverage of the George Floyd killing. Go read the message boards and the Twitter responses. Now you've got Rudy up there squeezing out crocodile tears for George Floyd, while every Republican listening to that is like, Rudy, that's not the narrative, Rudy.
Peaceful protests began all over the land.
That's not the narrative, Rudy. That's not the narrative.
The condemnation of the killing was universal.
Right.
From President Trump, it seemed, for a few brief shining moments, Democrat and Republican leaders would come together with a unified proposal to reduce police misconduct.
No, it didn't. Trump told the police to dominate the protesters with overwhelming force. He still has not made a public statement condemning police brutality. So again, what the fuck are you talking about, Rudy?
This possibility was very dangerous to the left. They had a president to beat and a country to destroy.
I can't stop laughing at the image of socialist Democrats finishing their meeting saying, come on guys, we've got a country to destroy. Seriously though, that is some jaw-dropping projection there from a couple of guys who were caught working with the Russians to help destroy America.
And although an agreement on action against police brutality would be very valuable for the country, it would also make President Trump appear to be an effective leader.
I don't think there's any worry on the left about Trump looking like an effective leader. I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed. Also, I love that he said it would make Trump appear like an effective leader. Not that it would show what an effective leader Trump is, but that it would make it appear that way. With that specific phrasing, Rudy is admitting that Trump is incompetent, but that sometimes, by accident, it can seem like he's not.
So Black Lives Matter and Antifa sprang into action, and in a flash, they hijacked the peaceful protests into vicious, brutal riots.
Nope. While violence did occur, it was mainly initiated by outside right-wing groups and the police. According to multiple reports, there was zero evidence that Antifa or Black Lives Matter were behind violence at the protests.
Police officers routinely assaulted, badly beaten, and occasionally murdered. And the police handcuffed by progressive Democrat mayors from doing anything but observe the crimes and absorb the blows.
I wasn't in the room, so I can't be sure. But I don't think progressive mayors told the police to just observe the crimes and absorb the blows. Because the police didn't do that. They beat, gassed, and arrested hundreds. And then the next day, all those liberal mayors were like, what did I just say? What did I just tell you? You said to observe the crimes and absorb the blows. And did you? No. Well, I am very disappointed in you.
But the worst of it was the slaughter of innocent young people with their whole lives ahead of them.
By right-wing militia members like Kyle Rittenhouse.
1-year-old Davil Gardner Jr. was shot and killed in a stroller. And it caused no outrage.
Of course it caused outrage, you psychopath. But we're not going to protest murder. We're not trying to bring awareness to the issue of murder. We already know that murder is bad. That's why we pay the police to catch the murderers and throw them in jail. Now, if the police caught the murderers, but instead of sending them to jail, they just put them on administrative murder leave, or a paid murder vacation, or just transfer them to a different murder district, then yeah, we would protest that. And I know that we would protest that because that is why we had the protest that you are currently complaining about.
For President Trump, and for us Republicans, all Black lives matter.
That's not the talking point, Rudy.
All lives matter to us.
That's the talking point.
These continuous riots in Democratic cities gives you a good view of the future under Biden.
And the present under Trump. You can't blame Biden for chaos in a country that he isn't currently in charge of. Trump is the president. All of this is happening under his watch. Also, riots happened in cities run by Republicans, like Fort Worth and Bakersfield, and states with Republican governors, like Georgia and Ohio. You forgot to mention those, Rudy.
There is no question that this awesome job of restoring safety for our people cannot be done from your basement, Joe.
Or from the bunker of the White House, Donald. Again, if you're worried that a President Biden won't restore order because it's the job of the president to restore order, then whose fault is the chaos that's happening right now? Who is president right now?
There's also no question that President Trump will fight
Anyone on Twitter.
in critical times in our history. America has always been blessed with the right person to handle the crisis.
Unless that crisis is a hurricane, or a global recession, or a pandemic, or police brutality, or terrorists. For some reason, it's always Republicans that fuck up those crises.
Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Reagan were perfect for the challenges they faced.
You forgot George W. Bush. That's weird. Since you're talking about presidents handling crises, why didn't you mention Bush?
President Trump, with his boundless love of our country
Right.
and all our people, his disciplined work ethic, his exceptional ability to inspire, and his deep understanding of our system of government,
His fluency in other languages, his eloquence in describing complicated matters, his slender athletic physique and clear blemish-free skin, his respect for women and minorities, his ability to not go bankrupt, and his extremely normal-shaped penis.